I ended up dropping out of college, but I really didn't express just how scared I really was. I was honestly going through one of the worst times of my life. I feel like the walls are closing in. It is a recipe for depression, and you're in your darkest moment to their negativity and honestly just garbage. You feel like you're doing what you need to do, but things just aren't falling into place the way that you hoped. Don't worry, you may just need advice with how to navigate the maze of life. Well, I hope you have time because I am going in depth today. Life has so many complexities, but in this video, when I talk about the maze of life, I am specifically speaking about uncertainty, major life transitions, feeling stuck, and redirection. And I have so many notes, so get ready. If any of those words really hit home for you, then I just really think this video will help you. I'm just gonna be honest, I hope that you could follow along, but I recorded this video months ago with the hopes of sharing my personal self-love journey. If you are new here, hi, my name is Brianna from Self Love Starts Now, and this channel is basically all about healthy self-love. But I never shared my personal self-love journey, how I came to do this, turn it into a business, what I love about self-love, and what I struggle with. So I had made this video, and recently when I was editing the video, I realized that the video was actually less about my self-love journey and more about my redirections. So I am going to share the original clip with you and pause to drop the gems that has helped me to navigate the maze of life. I really want to share some of my self-love journey because honestly, it was actually a total mistake for me to even get on this path. But you know, there are no such thing as coincidences. So I want to share this story and I hope that it encourages you or inspires you in some way. Okay, I know the clip just started, but the first gem is a smart person learns from their own mistakes, but a wise person learns from the mistakes of others. This is one of my favorite quotes because it has blessed my life 100-fold. So I had to share this before the story really starts because I want to plead with you. Please don't just listen to my life or the way I'm telling the story and all of that stuff. Try your absolute best to hear the lessons from my life. Try to pick up on the mistakes I've made and do that when you listen to other people too. Yes, you have your own life to learn from, but I really believe a wise person can learn from other people's life. So first of all, I never would have thought I would be doing things like this with my life, starting my business in this type of way, starting a business. I think I was always an entrepreneur, but I just really didn't think about having my own business, if I'm honest. And I certainly would not have thought I would be making videos like at all. But I really have to share this. So I have always loved people. Like I just love people. And the moment that I knew what a psychologist was, or that something like that was a field, I don't know if I saw it in a movie or what, I just knew that I was gonna do that. And I thought that I would have my own practice essentially. Like I just saw myself, you know, sitting at a desk or in a chair, and I would have like a client laying down on a couch. So I must have had that image from a movie, but I just can't tell you what movie that was. What are some things you enjoyed as a child? In this portion of the story, I was sharing how at a young age, I saw myself helping people by speaking to them and allowing them to speak to me. I had an image of something like this in my mind, probably from a movie. But the point is, it obviously deeply resonated with me. If you were anything like me as a child, I saw hundreds of movies. And so I think there is something to notice or be said that year after year, that scene or image continued to stick with me. And as I got older, it still resonated with me. As I was thinking about this, I asked someone who was a nurse for, I don't know, maybe 25 years, what did they enjoy as a child? And they said that they always enjoyed caring for people. I asked a man, mid-50s, what he enjoyed doing as a child. And of course, he gave very generic responses like, oh, I played outside and things like that. But as he continued to speak, he said that he always really liked to think. And I'm like, okay, like that is not a typical thing I hear. So I'm listening, and he continues and says how he just liked to sit and think sometimes. He liked to solve puzzles and be challenged. He's just explaining that as a child, he liked to be challenged and find the solutions to problems. And do you know he is one of the top trial attorneys in New York? So when you think about this gem, don't be so literal. Like, okay, when I was a child, I was obsessed with Legos. So now I'm going to go to lego.com and see if they're hiring. No, if you liked Legos, ask yourself, what did you like about it? Did you like the actual building part? Or were you thinking about what you wanted to build first? Were you into the planning and organization of it? In like the 70s, Legos came up with, they introduced themes and instructions to building models. So now I know they could be quite intricate and complex. So were you someone who was obsessed with the planning or following the instructions step by step? Do you remember leaning into math, like counting them, or getting into geometry, getting into the shapes or the colors? If you really think about it, did you like to play Legos with other people? Did you like to have a team? Okay, I'm gonna build this, and then you build that. And then when we put ours together, we'll have a whole city. I know when I would play with blocks, I would have a vision in my mind of what I wanted to build. But I always seemed to be around people who would wait for me to build my tower or whatever I was building, and then they would come along and kick it. So I know some of y'all are into the demolition. Now I could go on and on pulling skills and talents from Legos, but I don't want to bore you. But do you see what I did here? Think about what you enjoyed as a child and think about your life and what you naturally gravitate to. Okay, let's get back to the story. Anyway, so I end up pursuing a career path in that direction. So I go to college. I ended up dropping out of college, which I shared in, I don't know if I shared that in a video, but I did drop out of college. But then I returned again. So analyze your patterns. Now this gem is specifically helpful if you are struggling with feelings of uncertainty and feeling stuck. Now I didn't want to harp on dropping out of college too much because I did return, but there is something I have to say about it. For me personally, I dropped out of college for about 2 years, and I want to give context to it. I went to a community college to start. I started off strong, but I faced major challenges in my life during this time, including losing a parent, which really wrecked me and eventually caused me to drop out. So my second year, I dropped down to part-time and earned my associate's degree after 3 years, where it is set up to complete after 2. Then I had an entire stop in my college career for about a year, for a year before continuing to earn my bachelor's degree. And to be honest, because of all the things I had going on in my life at that time, I feel as though I had dropped out of school for much longer than that. And I have to say, I really was an entirely different person when I went on to pursue my bachelor's degree. Now, I know many people have dropped out of school for much longer than that, and everyone has their own story. Maybe you didn't even drop out at all, but I had to give credence to this gem regarding dropping out because we have to analyze the patterns of our lives. There is nothing wrong with dropping out of college. I hope we know at this point college is just not for everyone. And on top of that, it's quite costly. It really is. But do you have a pattern of dropping out? Do you have a pattern of not finishing what you started? If you do, the conversation that needs to be had is far beyond college credits. You have to really analyze your patterns. If you don't do this, the feeling of uncertainty will only be amplified. For example, when I took a pause from completing my bachelor's degree, many people had many things to say. Many people would ask me about it. And of course, I heard a lot of advice. The advice was regarding how and why I should finish my degree. I heard stories about how when you stop the momentum of school, it's highly unlikely you'll return. Almost impossible. And statistics actually prove this. However, when analyzing my own patterns, I knew that wouldn't be my story. I had set out to earn my bachelor's degree, and I knew that would come to pass despite my situation, despite how it looked to others, and despite statistics. Why did I know this? Because I could do anything I put my mind to? No. Well, sure, that's true, but no. Looking at the patterns of my life, I'm just not one to start something and then not finish. I was never one to join a club or sports and quit. In fact, I was really never an athletic person growing up, and for the sports that I did try out for, I never made it. I never made the team. But to my surprise, when I was in high school, I made the track team. I always wanted to be a part of a sports team to meet new people and spend more time with friends outside of school. Well, I never ran a day in my life. The workouts these people were doing was just beyond my capacity. I mean, the push-ups, the sit-ups, the burpees. That was just the warm-up. Like, before they started running through the streets. I just did not have the physical endurance or the mindset to push my body in that way. Needless to say, my performance was subpar, if that. I did also have medical issues at that time, but I refuse to quit the team. What I know about myself is I like to finish what I commit to. I just do. Even recently, I literally signed a whole lease to be in a city that I don't even love because I committed to a position that I knew I would be ending in a few months. Also, I'm someone who is pretty adamant about getting my money's worth, whatever that means to me. So I just knew for sure I was going to receive my bachelor's degree because I already paid towards credits for it. Like, one class costs hundreds of dollars, hundreds. Why would I allow an institution to keep my money? Now I realize everyone doesn't think that way, but this is important because I had countless people telling me that I probably wouldn't finish college, but they did not know the patterns of my life the way that I did. I dropped out of college because I was honestly going through one of the worst times of my life, and I already had feelings of uncertainty. If I did not analyze who I was and just listen to others, my feelings of uncertainty would have been amplified. People don't mind counting you out, so don't build your identity based on what other people think about you. Look at what your pattern is. Is it not finishing something you committed to? Is it negative self-talk? Is it procrastination? Is it people-pleasing? Once you analyze your patterns, you could work on changing the negative patterns and nurturing the positive patterns so that you could be the best version of yourself. After going back to school and eventually graduating, I really started to pursue that path, like actually working with clients, actually working in the field that I love, using my natural gifts, wisdom that God has given me, and just experiences that I've gone through even at a very young age. Fast forward, quite a few things happened in my life, but I really started to recognize certain gifts that I had, and people started to bring it up to me. Eliminate negative people and open your ears. In this portion of the story, I mentioned how the people around me were reinforcing the gifts I already recognized in myself. I opened my ears and began to hear what they were saying. They were saying things like, "Wow, Brianna, you're so good at this. Where did you learn how to do that? How did you think of that? That looks like it comes so naturally to you." But you must eliminate negative people in your life before you do this, or else you will be opening your ears to their negativity and honestly, just garbage. You know right now who is negative in your life. They always have problems and can find anything to complain about. They will be counterproductive to your redirection because negativity limits perspective. Wait, let me say that again. Negativity limits perspective. When you have a limited perspective, it is difficult to see alternative solutions and opportunities. Negativity also drains your energy. And if you're already feeling stuck, having your energy drained is a recipe for depression. Okay, let's get back to the story. But yeah, I think there were several things that happened where I just noticed when you do certain things in life, you get certain results. And I think that's fairly obvious, but in my early 20s, I think I really just became more intentional about that. And like I said, because I had so many health issues, that's just one thing, for example, because it's so tangible. But I literally saw when I ate certain foods, my body had an effect immediately. Like when I started eating clean, if I ate out at a chain, like say if I went to Fridays, because I used to love Fridays, I used to get a Jack Daniel's burger. Like if they say you are what you eat, I would be a Jack Daniel's burger. But when I started eating clean, literally, if I were to eat a Jack Daniel's burger or just something that was less clean, my body would feel that immediately. Like I would get a headache before I even left the restaurant. That is very tangible because it's food, so I could kind of describe it and you could have a visualization of that. But I really started to notice that pattern with other areas of my life, like whether or not I budgeted. I was managing my money very well. And because I just really started to live this intentional way, really just naturally, I began to help other people around me. So this is how it looked like for me to help people. If someone I knew was sick, not just sick with a cold, but say they were having like swollen ankles or they were having inflammation or they got a lot of headaches, I would be so intense. I would just cut up a bunch of lemon and make them drink a gallon of water, or I would do like little meal prepping. Like I would do I didn't have a meal service, but I would literally make food for them, or whatever foods I was eating, which was a lot of healthy foods. Like I was not a vegan that was eating chips. I was eating like kale tacos and stuff. I would just like put food in containers for them and just stuff like that. Friends or family that were in debt and spoke to me about it, I said, hey, if I make a budget for you, would you follow it? And I did that for several friends. Think about in which ways you could help or offer your services for free. This has to be one of the biggest gems of the whole story, and honestly, probably the one to get ignored the most. Like, you probably want to skip over this right now, because if you are truly facing redirection and going through a major life transition, the last thing you may want to do or honestly have time for is doing things for other people, especially for free. As you will soon hear, my business was birthed from the fact that I began to help people without expecting anything in return. And there are actually so many businesses that have started this way. Patagonia, I don't know if that's how you say it. Warby Parker, the glasses company, I actually have some glasses from them. Tom's, the shoe company, and Ben and Jerry. Did you know that? I love helping people, but here are some other reasons that prove my point. Whatever you do to help others, you are gaining. You're learning new opportunities. Life is all about learning. I think you know this, which is why you're watching this video. You are gaining experience and expertise. The reality is, you don't know what's in store for you. You don't know what your future holds. So having hands-on experience, even if it seems irrelevant at the time, is gold. And it could be invaluable for your personal and professional growth. Personal fulfillment. Of course, helping others is incredibly rewarding and boosts self-esteem and provides a sense of purpose. So think about ways you could help or offer services for free. The key is regularly. Okay, now listen. I have been driving with my license for over a decade now. And over that span of time, I have given people a jump start before. You know, no big deal. So say in over 10 years, I've given 4 jump starts to strangers. Am I a professional now? Am I a mechanic now? No. It's nice to help people, but the key is regularly. So ask yourself, what do people seek you for regularly? Is there a commonality there? Even though I was helping people of all ages and backgrounds, I began to notice that people who weren't even vegan would ask me for vegan recipes or ask me how I got rid of pain I was having. Because remember, I had medical issues. People were also asking me to help them with spreadsheets or finances. Basically, the commonality was people were seeking me in order to improve. So right now, is there something that people desire from you? Maybe it's to tell a story. Listen, being a storyteller is a gift. Making people smile, making people laugh, that's a gift. And I think what's so tricky about our gifts is that because they come so naturally to us, we actually overlook them. So think about in which ways you could help or offer services for free. I had a friend. So with this friend in particular, I was helping her quite a bit, specifically with finances. I made a budget for her. She had a lot of student loans. Because of the budget I made and helped her with following it, she pays off all her debt. Mind you, she was trying to pay this off for years, but she paid off all of her debt. She followed like the formula I was telling her to use. I encouraged her to do the debt snowball. Dave Ramsey coined that term, I believe, but essentially it's paying off your smallest debt to largest debt. And yeah, she pays off her student loans and some other debt she had. Realize you are still learning. Now, this point is kind of connected to the previous point of helping others for free. Now, you may be watching this and say, well, no, I have a lot of experience. I have over 10 years of experience or something. But I just want to encourage you to expand your mind. Often we feel stuck when we're in this maze and we feel like the walls are closing in. And she was certainly not the first person to say this to me, but because I helped her so much, she was always very grateful. Like, oh my gosh, Brianna, I would not have been able to do this if you didn't help me so much. Like, you are so disciplined. You're the most disciplined person I know. She just really encouraged me in that way. And people told me just always throughout the years, like, oh, I should have a business for this, or oh, I should have a business for that, because I have, like, little different gifts. But I remember her telling me that I should literally have a self-disciplined business. And I was like, wow, because I really thought about a lot of different things that I learned in psychology and getting my degree, and just a lot of different areas that people struggle to have discipline in. I really felt I mastered. Like, one area that people really struggle to have discipline and exercise self-control is sexually, also eating, and I could just name a ton of different things. But having a business for self-discipline just sounded so intriguing to me, and I'm like, yeah, I think I could do that. And so I did. So I have this business and I called it Self-Discipline Starts Now. Now, I had that business for about 2 years, and although I really struggled because I could have done it just immediately, long story short, what I really found is that a lot of people were struggling to have self-discipline because they lacked self-respect and self-love. And that's when I knew I had to transition. Now, again, I didn't want to transition because I already, like, when you have never had an official business, like an LLC, and doing all the paperwork and the advertising, like everything it takes to have a business, to run a business, is so much work. So I fought transitioning, but obviously eventually I did. My business went from Self-Discipline Starts Now to Self-Love Starts Now. Fail forward. Now, I'm not sure if you caught it, but my first business failed. I invested so much time, effort, money, and energy into something that never turned out to be what I thought it would become. But in the failing, I had my light bulb moment, which for me was, people struggle with self-discipline because they lack self-respect and self-love. If it wasn't for Self-Discipline Starts Now, there would be no Self-Love Starts Now. But this doesn't just apply to me or someone starting a business. Because we are afraid to fail, we put ourselves in a box, making us feel more stuck. I will give another example of my beautiful dear friend. She's accomplished so much in her life. She actually had an extremely successful career in sales, the sales industry. She made a lot of money and grew valuable character traits one learns from working in sales. It helped her break out of the financial cycle and struggle that her family is from. Like, the way that she grew up, she was able to break free from that. And she bought her first house at 24 years old. Anyway, at some point, she had the boldness to totally switch career paths and pursue a passion of hers, which was to become a teacher. She went to school and eventually became a certified teacher. Now, years later, she found herself burnt out. Being a school teacher has tremendous difficulties that people don't even know about, don't even think about, and probably wouldn't even consider, including an administrative burden, limited resources, parent-teacher relationships, constant changing curriculums and standards, emotional and physical safety, and extremely high expectations. If you're a teacher right now, can you just comment, yes, ma'am? Yes, ma'am. But back to my friend. She found herself feeling incredibly stuck because she basically stopped her entire life to become a certified teacher and spent years being a teacher and in the education system at this point. So what do you do when you know you need to pivot but feel too scared to start over? Fail forward. You see, when I explain it in this way, it probably doesn't sound like failing. Me ending one business to start a new one, my friend leaving teaching to pursue a new opportunity, right? That doesn't sound like failing. That's because it's not. What you have to understand is you are not a failure. A failure literally implies someone who has had an unsuccessful outcome. And as long as you have breath in your lungs, your outcome is not final. When things are not looking like how you want them to look, and you're in your darkest moments, the enemy wants you to feel like you failed. But you haven't, because your story is not over. If you are listening right now, please hear this. Your story is not over. At the time when I had client after client just struggling in the self-discipline program, or I wasn't getting any clients at all, and all of it just wasn't making sense, I felt terrible that my business was failing. But that was not the end. It actually wasn't failing because it was setting me up for the successful business that I have today. And I am here to tell you right now that no matter what you're going through, maybe for you it's regarding a relationship, whatever devastation is before you, if you have breath in your lungs, it is not over. Not to be super corny, but that is what that saying means. The only L I take is lessons. Realize that you are not a loser. If you did indeed take an L, realize it was a lesson, not a loss. Now, I'm supposed to be telling you how my self-love journey is going. I felt it's important to tell the background because honestly, I started my self-discipline business because I had so much confidence that I was self-disciplined. I'm like, yeah, I could teach people how to do this because I am exercising these things. But when I really transitioned to self-love, I would have never thought I didn't practice self-love. I would have always said I love myself. I would always say that I am confident, but actually starting my business, learning what true self-love is, healthy self-love, not the toxic things that we see, people being self-centered and just selfish. People literally do so much selfish, toxic things and mask it as self-love, and that is like a big pet peeve of mine. Actually practicing true healthy self-love is challenging, and I literally teach people that. I teach people how to cultivate self-love and practice healthy self-love, and it's challenging. Like, I could literally admit that it's very challenging. So I want to share that for my journey. I'm still learning, and I'm grateful to be still learning. Let fear humble you, not stop you. You know, at the time that I was recording that story, I really wanted to share my self-love journey, but I really didn't express just how scared I really was. I spent a lot of time, effort, energy, and money into a business I felt super confident about just to start something I was less confident in. Think about that. I felt more confident in my self-discipline than I did in my self-love. I didn't know if I had the tools to be able to help and guide people the way I felt I knew before. It didn't really make sense, but I knew I had to do it. So I'm not gonna lie, I did have some fear. But what I believe I did, and I try my best to do, is letting fear humble me, not stop me. Listen, that fear came from the fact that I didn't fully know what I was doing. Let's be honest. But that is the perfect place to be humble. When these things come up for me, I'm just like, God, I need help. Please help me. You know, when we are humble, we operate with a continuous growth mindset, and we're more likely to learn and improve. Self-love is not doing whatever you want, whenever you want it. It's not getting your own way or making everything in the world about you. Self-love is being patient with yourself, being kind to yourself. And that I have not mastered. I do it very much so. And I've noticed such a big change in my life from practicing healthy self-love. But do I do that every single time? Do I never get annoyed with myself? No. Sometimes I say and do things and I'm like, Brianna, why? Why did you say that? Why did you do that? But all of these things I am learning and practicing. That's the thing. Practice makes perfect, and you have to continue to do something in order for it to be practiced. So yeah, that's what I would say about my self-love journey. Basically, it's a journey. Life is full of uncertainty, major life transitions, feeling stuck, and redirection. But I believe these gems will help you navigate this maze of life. If you are on your self-love journey, you'll want to see the video I made after finishing my makeup. It will be especially helpful if you're struggling with the whole idea of self-love. So make sure you're subscribed and turn on the bell so that you don't miss it. I've really been enjoying this YouTube journey. I hope that you liked me recreating that story video. I really did it because I love encouraging and helping people. So I am really curious, which of the gems spoke most to you with your redirection right now in life? I really would love to speak with you and have a conversation, but stay encouraged. I love you. Bye.